Coming up, how did the D-backs pull off that comeback against the reigning World Series champs? And is Paul Goldschmidt the leading NL MVP candidate? Breaking it all down for you next.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, just follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free and available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement. Use code Locked On at checkout. Now that we got all the formalities out the way, we're going to talk about Paul Goldschmidt's potential MVP candidacy with Sully Baseball of Locked On MLB. But first, we have to talk about that Game 2 victory over the Atlanta Braves. Unfortunately, we couldn't record after last night's game because our podcast host server, the website that hosts these podcasts, a lot of technical difficulties last night, so we weren't able to get the podcast up for Tuesday, unfortunately, but we got one coming for you guys on Wednesday because we got to discuss that Game 2 victory over the reigning World Series champs. The D-backs win that game 8-7, and this was a funny game to watch because if you guys ever seen that video, I got some for my YouTube listeners. I keep scratching my face because I have a hair on my nose, but this was a funny game to watch because if you've ever seen like that one video clip of the football player talking, he's like, you got us in the first half. You got us in the first half. But in the second half, though, because that's how this game felt, the Braves got the D-backs in the first half of this game because of the disgusting pitching by Humberto Castellanos. So we'll get more into that later. But the D-backs offense just kind of chipped away slowly but surely throughout this game. And eventually they were able to pull it out with some late 8th inning, 9th inning, and 10th inning magic. And the funny thing about this game is Cooper Hummel, around that 8th inning, I was taking my notes. I like to do, my 3 stars of the game for if the D-backs win, who are the 3 best players or the 3 most impactful players in that game. 3 moons of the game for the 3 players that made the least amount of impact. And Cooper Hummel was definitely going to get one of those moons as I was typing up my notes around the 8th inning because the D-backs looked like they were going to lose. I thought Cooper Hummel was going to be a huge scapegoat in tonight's game, but instead, Cooper Hummel goes from scapegoat to hero because if you just recap Cooper Hummel's game, he grounded into a double play with 2 on and 1 out in the 4th inning, grounded out with a man on third in the 6th inning, and then struck out with 1st and 3rd in the 8th inning. So he had 3 opportunities during the regular, the regular part of the game, the pre-extra innings. Cooper Hummel was not able to get it done with runners in scoring position multiple times, 3 times to count exactly. But in the 10th inning, Cooper Hummel was able to just kiss a ball down the line. The chalk kicked up, and that was all you needed to see because once that chalk kicks up, there's no need to go to replay. There's no need to review. There's no need to argue a challenge because once you see that chalk kick up, it's automatic. That was a base hit, and the game was over. So I first want to start with the negatives from this game, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I first want to talk about Humberto Castellanos in this game because Castellanos was not very good. 4.2 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, and I think pretty soon, we might not be there just yet, but pretty soon we're going to have to start thinking about other options maybe to replace a Castellanos if he continues to pitch like this. I don't think we have to worry about Zach Davies or anything like that just yet, but I don't think Castellanos, I don't think his spot is secure. I don't think it's secure in the rotation because you got options like Corbin Martin, who can always come back and take a rotation spot, who is coming off his best start of the season where he struck out 10 batters for the Reno Aces. You also have Tyler Gilbert, who hasn't been performing well on the minor league level, but on the big sample size he has on the major league level, Tyler Gilbert has performed pretty effectively. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Castellanos keeps performing like the way he is over the last couple starts, because Castellanos, in his last 2 starts now, 11 earned runs. If that trend continues, I wouldn't be surprised if the D-backs start to look at other internal options, because someone like Matt Olson would just teeing off in this game against Castellanos. I think he was a triple shy of the cycle by the time the 5th inning rolled around. It was the first time in Olson's career he had 3 extra base hits in one game, and he was able to do that all while Castellanos was on the mound. Absolutely just destroyed him. It was like a personal demon Matt Olson had against Castellanos. And that 5th inning for Castellanos, I mean, we saw basically everything from him. The announcers were really keying in on this. Castellanos recorded a strikeout, a walk, a hit by pitch, and a wild pitch in that 5th inning. And the hit by pitch was weird because it was against Ronald Acuna. And right before the hit by pitch, the catcher came out to talk to Castellanos. They had a little catcher meeting, and then the very next pitch, Acuna gets hit. So was a little weird, a little fishy. The pitch did look like it just ran away from Castellanos when watching the replay, but it is weird to see a catcher's meeting, then the very next pitch, you hit the best player on the opposing team. So that is a little sketch. So I definitely don't want to get more umpires involved. We didn't even get a chance to talk about Torey Lovullo getting tossed yesterday, because I was at the Memorial Day game where Torey Lovullo got tossed. And honestly, I had no clue what was happening when I was in the stands, because I was eating my Cold Stone ice cream. And all of a sudden I look up, Torey Lovullo's arguing, getting tossed. I'm like, what's happening here? And I'm talking to the people next to me. They're like, literally, I have no idea what's going on. So I was pretty confused in the moment. But after going home, looking at the replays, like, yeah, that was a strike by Zach Gallen. And the definitely deserved to hear some of it. I wish Torey Lovullo probably didn't get thrown out in that moment, but the umpire just a quick reaction and a quick toss on Torey Lovullo. So I wasn't happy to see that. And the umps, again, wasn't great tonight with the strike zone, but I'm not going to complain. Whining about umps, I think it's usually just a waste of your breath and a waste of your time. So I'm not going to complain about the umps in tonight's game, because usually I don't think the umps definitely make an impact on the game with their strike zone. But overall, there's only so many games throughout the year where you're like, man, that call changed the complexion of the game. That really doesn't happen too much. So Castellanos was terrible tonight. But like we talked about, the offense was able to pick him up, because the offense just kind of chipped away throughout the whole night. Christian Walker started the game off with a home run. Back-to-back games with the D-backs start off the game in the 1st inning with a home run. Pavin Smith did it yesterday. Christian Walker did it today. Walker, 9th home run of May for him. The dude has been crushing it this month. He also got 2 runs in the 6th off of Pavin Smith's sac fly, and also another Christian Walker almost home run off the wall. D-backs able to play a little small ball in the 8th inning after a Varsho bunt to start the inning to get a run. Then in the 9th inning, Alek Thomas starts the inning with a single. Big clutch at bat by Alek Thomas. Ketel Marte, it doesn't matter if he's starting the game or off the bench. He kept that hit streak alive. 13-game hitting streak now for Ketel Marte. And then Varsho, of course, in the 9th inning. Sack fly. And then you fast forward to the 10th inning, and Mark Melancon doing his usual Mark Melancon impression. Like, he gave up back-to-back singles in the 10th inning, and we can't overlook this. Jordan Luplow throws out the runner at third base, and that might have been the player of the game. If Luplow doesn't do that, I don't think the D-backs win this game, because it was the difference between the Braves just being up 1 versus maybe being up 2, maybe even more runs, because you don't know what happens after that. With the way Mark Melancon was pitching, I wouldn't be surprised if he gave up 2 more runs after that. So huge play by Jordan Luplow, because in the bottom of the 10th, of course, David Peralta goes the opposite way. Clutch single by the freight train. And then Cooper Hummel, as we talked about, kisses it down the sideline. Great D-backs win to really... We've talked about the D-backs showing resilience, and they've done it against a lot of bad teams. And, you know, when we look at the D-backs updated record against below 500 teams, like, it's going to go up after this series, because the Braves are a below 500 team. So it still looks like the D-backs only beat up on bad teams, but you have to respect the Braves for the amount of talent that they have, and considering they're coming off a World Series win. I don't care what their record is right now. Beating the Atlanta Braves in a series is very, very impressive, especially considering, like, we got to remind everyone, the D-backs were a 52-win team last season. Now they're beating their reigning World Series champs in a series. So now let's hand out our 3 stars. Like we talked about, we hand out 3 stars after every win, 3 moons after losses. And I thought we were going to have to do 3 moons, but now we get to hand out 3 stars. And the first star goes to David Peralta, who had 2 hits tonight, 2 RBIs, that big single in the 10th inning to keep the D-backs alive. David Peralta, Peralta. It was huge tonight. Second guy was Christian Walker, who had the home run in the first inning. Also in the sixth inning, had the shot off the wall. Christian Walker, 3 RBIs tonight, was huge. And then the last star has to go to Cooper Hummel, who had the walk-off hit in extra innings. Great game by him. Great game by, well, actually not a great game by Cooper Hummel. Great 10th inning by Cooper Hummel because the overall game was not good by him. But overall by the D-backs, even though Castellanos wasn't good, and also Kyle Nelson wasn't very good in this one either, the man has been elite with not allowing inherited runners to score. Only one inherited runner all season has scored for Kyle Nelson, and he allowed a couple of them to score today. He also allowed an earned run in today's game, only allowed 2 of those all season entering the second game of the series against the Braves as well. So not the best Kyle Nelson, not the best Mark Melancon, not the best Humberto Castellanos, but once again, the D-backs offense showed resilience. They had a great comeback down from 6-2. They were able to get the victory against the Atlanta Braves. So good job by the D-backs. And now let's go for that series sweep tomorrow.